Everybody smiles in the same language. A smile, let your light come shining through.
Welcome to the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. I'm Sandra M., coming to you from Santa Fe, New Mexico, the land of enchantment. I interview people from all parts of the world about what happiness means to them. What are they in love with? In each episode, we'll give you a key to happiness to include in your life. And of course, we'll play a happy tune from my live Celebrate Happiness Roadshow.
A smile doesn't cost you anything. But there's so much good.
Welcome to the second season of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. And don't forget to catch up on any episodes from season 1 you might have missed. Today we're talking with David Geist, celebrated concert pianist, cabaret performer, conductor, educator, and impresario. David has enjoyed an illustrious career working with luminaries like Stephen Sondheim, Andrew Lloyd Webber, Harold Prince, Hugh Jackman, Michael Crawford, and Betty Buckley. He has performed in the Broadway orchestras of Cats, Les Miserables, The Lion King, Wicked, The Producers, and FOSSE, just to name a few. His cabaret credits include FEINSTEIN'S, the FRIARS Club, the Metropolitan Room, and his concerts are stories and songs commemorating his career on Broadway, the Great American Songbook, classical, and pop. David's performances have been hailed in the Santa Fe, New Mexican news as a confluence between genres and generations, and every show he gives is informed by his deep knowledge and passion for preserving our musical culture. Welcome, David. I'm so excited to talk to you about happiness, and I always ask the same question to start off, and that is, what does happiness mean to you, David? And why is it so important in your life?
Well, right now in this moment, Sandy, what makes me happy is to be sharing this conversation with you. You make me happy right now, Sandy. Okay, it's that simple. It's that easy. So, no.
Wow.
Well, it's right. We do that for each other. We should be, that grateful and that present with one another. Happiness is an earned. It's a shared experience. It's an earned experience. Yeah, I mean, we could go on and on, but what makes me happy? Just to take a nice walk, to go to a movie, to share times with friends, play some good music, meditate. We could really elaborate, which I will. But if you want to just sort of dive right in, I'm here for you, and I'm here for our listeners. Absolutely.
Let's dive right in because you are an expert in music. I love listening to you. We've known each other for a long time, and I've heard you play in various cabaret rooms and etc. And I know you have such a background. So I think our listeners would really be interested in how does music uplift people, make them happier, give them a sense of connection to the world, maybe to themselves?
Absolutely. Well, my music life has really taken me through many phases and stages of development and evolution. And obviously when I was younger and I would play the piano and it was like, oh, look at the guy playing piano, isn't he neat, and all that. And that was fun. But as I grew older and matured, I realized this is really a valuable tool to help others, to really reach others. So my music is really fused and fueled with the intention to really want to bring peace and harmony to the world. Harmony, no pun intended, but to really build community. And I really do think that music does allow us to do that. And I think whether we're attending a concert or we're going to a show of sorts, we sit in community with each other. We sit as a congregation and we hear what people have to say when they're expressing themselves. through their performance art. So I do feel like I'm very privileged and blessed that I get to do performing artists, and I really want to reach others and be of the utmost benefit that I can, and play music that's going to somehow resonate with them and tell stories. And I think that's the beauty of the arts in general. I think that's what the role of the artist is to do. I think a lot of people have various professions, but I think the artist really does kind of, as they say, keep sort of the wheels of the cog sort of oiled, so to speak. We're sort of the oil in the big vast machine. And that's one way to describe it. But we're here to help, definitely. Yeah.
Right. So, like for instance, in the intro that I read just earlier, we talked about the cats, that you work with cats, Les Miserables, The Lion King.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
And so all of those music, talk about your experience with that. And I know that you were using not only the music, but the story and the sets and the scene and all that sort of thing, but connecting to the people. People love Les Miserables. Isn't it supposed to be the most popular musical of all time?
Yeah, it's one. Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, I lived in New York City for many years, and I was a theater musician. I still am, and I played for many Broadway shows. I played for over 20 Broadway shows, and Cats, and Les Mis, and Miss Saigon, and The Lion King, and I always was really drawn to stories that really, just had great messages. I mean, Cats is really about reincarnation, if you really think about it. I mean, T.S. Eliot was an incredible poet, and a lot of people think, oh, it's this little kitty cat review show. But I don't tell a lot of people this, but I lost my father while I was on tour with Cats, and that story of Cats really helped me because the main character, Grisabella, who Betty Buckley originated the role on Broadway, and she sings the song "Memory," and it's about moving from one life to the next. You're fading from one life, and you're about to embrace what the next life is about to become, and that really gave me a lot of comfort. So I love being part of a story that really, promotes healing and understanding. I mean, it's one particular interpretation, obviously, and of what we think of as sort of, what happens to us, in the great beyond. But Cats really gave me a great comfort at a time in my life. So I love being part of a story, and I loved playing the piano and somehow conjuring up those stories and then giving those stories to others. So it's a lot of fun. It really is. I love being able to make that my life's work. It really is a gift. So that's really the essence of what I do. Now, if you want to talk about what I think, what makes me happy,
yes.
I mean, that, obviously, of course, that makes me very happy. I mean, again, doing shows and being before audiences and knowing that I'm communicating to them and that they're fulfilled, and then we leave just all very much in a more of a heightened state of mind. I can tell when people leave a show, when they've really felt something and something they've been touched, and it's someone, there's been transformation. And that's what happens. You should go to a concert or go to a movie, and that should occur to you. That is what's supposed to happen to you. But what my life is more about music, and so what I like to think of is what brings me happiness is I do think that it is about carving out. And this is what I really wanted to get to as sort of the core of our discussion, is really carving out a space for ourselves. And I know a lot of people really have very busy lives. Raising families and making ends meet and all that, and we live in these very, especially living in Western culture, and we get very overwhelmed and very overloaded. And I do think it's just, we have to figure out a way to somehow just to claim a little bit of time for ourselves, even if it's 10 minutes only, and if it means taking a walk or reading something that gives you comfort. If you want to study a musical instrument for the first time, go practice piano for 5 or 10 minutes. That's it, really, or go practice the guitar for 5 or 10 minutes. But whatever it is, but carve out a little bit of space for yourself. And I think enough of those moments add up that you've accumulated over a period, these nice, pleasant moments that you've given yourself.
Join Sandra M. for her live performance of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, a toast to love and happiness in life, an uninhibited musical adventure guaranteed to awaken your happiness vibe. Celebrate with upbeat rhythms, love songs, and fun stories, some told by you in the audience. Sandra's musical guest and accompanist, Todd Lowry, sings his hopeful and happy originals. To book Sandra M. and the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, email sandra@sandramcknight.com. Celebrate happiness with Sandra M.
And I think that's where happiness is something that is accumulated. It's almost, it's earned. It's grown. I think happiness is something that is grown from within, and that's how I see. That's how I see how it's worked for me. And if I can show up for myself for enough of these moments, whatever that might be, taking a walk with a friend, maybe just calling a friend that you just, that you, hopefully that you like, but somebody that you haven't, but just a nice, right? A 10-minute conversation, whatever it means. But I mean, we're talking very small, little attainable goals. I had a piano teacher that once said to me, Kenny Werner, who a phenomenal jazz pianist, and I was very overwhelmed with all the lessons that I was receiving from him. I was learning jazz almost really for the first time, and I was quite just, it was just almost, I was overwhelmed. And he said, all right, your assignment is just show up for 5 minutes. I want you to just practice 5 minutes a day. And when he told me that all I had to do was practice 5 minutes a day, I thought, well, I can do that. Of course, that's attainable. Who can't show up for 5 minutes? Who can't show up for themselves for 5 minutes a day? And I have to tell you, that tiny little gem that he gave me changed my life. And I mean that.
Wow.
So it's true. So what I'm saying to others out there is just show up for yourself 5 minutes a day. It really will. It does change your life. It really does. And that will grow, and you'll accumulate more of those 5 minute little moments. And enough of those 5 minute moments sort of added up really become like, wow, I'm kind of satisfied. I'm kind of happy. I'm kind of fulfilled. And so I think that's what fulfillment is. I really do. And I think that's really what, I don't think it's just, some people go away and do a retreat for one weekend, but I think it's the practice of showing up for ourselves. It's a discipline and it's a practice. And sometimes we don't necessarily want to, it's hard. I mean, I've learned the discipline from being a professional musician that sometimes, you don't feel like practicing. I don't feel like practicing the piano all the time. But, but I think, this is what I do. Of course, I'm not going to not practice. So, but I know there's times when, if there's a quote that I have on my desk, in fact, I'll read it. It says, "Nothing would ever get done if you waited around until you felt just right." And I feel like that's true. It's really true. You can't wait around to when I feel like it's the right moment, then I'll do it. No, just do it. So, and so that's my philosophy is so, even when you, just show up for those 5 minutes, whatever it takes. And if you're in a marriage and you've got kids and kids are screaming and crying, talk to your partner, just say, listen, honey, can you just take care of this for 10 minutes, really? Just give me 10 minutes and just go into a room and just breathe. If that's all you do is just breathe, I'm telling you, that's enough. Just to check in with yourself, like, okay, I'm okay. I'm here. There's breath moving through my body. And I'm a being who is just trying to just catch up to myself right now in this moment. So that's, I know that's sort of a kind of the lengthy version of what makes me happy, but I think it helps a lot of people too. I do. And so that's sort of my, there's my spiel, Sandy. There it is.
I love it because it's simple. It's easy to do. And you've just given people like a key to happiness, which is basically take 5 minutes a day to show up for yourself.
Exactly.
And I'm wondering if a lot of people don't have even an idea of what it means to show up for themselves. I took a course in compassion not too long ago, and we had to take a test, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was the man who was the Dalai Lama's translator for many years, and now he's in the United States. Yeah. So here it was. How many times do you give compassion to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Do you give compassion to your friends and family was the next one, and then to your larger community? So when I took the test, I was really good at helping others. I was really good at the larger community. But just like you said, I was not so good at giving compassion to myself.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I wonder if a lot of people have that issue. Could you speak to that? Being compassionate towards yourself.
That's actually really beautiful the way you just framed it, and I do agree with you. I think it is about compassion and loving kindness towards ourselves, but again, just as a tool. It's funny, we both live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where we met years ago. And I read a book when I was living in New York, and the woman actually resides here as well, resides in Santa Fe. I didn't realize at the time that she was a Santa Fe, but there's a book called The Artist's Way that was really one of these life-changing moments for me. And the woman who wrote it, her name is Julia Cameron, and she actually lives here in Santa Fe. I haven't met her, but anyhow, I just think that's a nice coincidence that, we all live in Santa Fe. But anyhow, and so when I read this book, The Artist's Way, and it was almost like a self-help book for artists, and there were all these various tools in it about, journaling, about what your favorite, what are your favorite kind of activities to do and all that. But there was this one sort of assignment in the book about that was called the artist's date. And she said, we need to take ourselves out on an artist's date. And that means take yourself out to a movie or take yourself, you have to take yourself out on a date. So that's what the 5 minutes is. What I think we're all speaking the same language here, but the 5 minutes, showing up for oneself for 5 minutes and having compassion for oneself is what she called in this book, the artist's date. What does that mean to show up for yourself? Does it mean I'm going to take myself out to a movie? I really want to go see this movie, and I don't care if I don't have a friend that's going to, join me, but I really want to go see this movie, or I really want to go to this concert, or I'm going to go take myself for a nice drive, whatever that is, or I'm going to take myself for a nice walk. But that date with oneself. And you're right. We show up for others. You're so right about that, Sandy. We'll show up for others. People will call and we'll feel like, okay, I'm kind of, and sometimes out of obligation, like, okay, I really need to see this person because I haven't seen them in a while. Hey, what about yourself? I really haven't seen this person. I need to see them, right?
Yeah.
Ourselves. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a commitment. It's about like, okay, and you even write it in your date book. I remember in the book, The Artist's Way, you actually write it down in your date book. I'm going to take myself out on a date. And if it means I'm going to go out and have dinner, I'm just going to treat myself and go to a restaurant and just sit and have a nice meal. And if it's just me, myself, and I, that is fabulous. And you don't have to necessarily do it with another person, but carve out that space, make a date with yourself. So I think, in relation to like that showing up for oneself for a few minutes every day, take yourself out on a date as well. I just think it's about showing up for ourselves. It really is. And I love that you framed it so beautifully about, having compassion for ourselves. We would do it for others. If there was a friend in need, if you knew that there was a friend that like, God, you could tell, oh, my friend's kind of lonesome and I should probably just go, I need to go spend time with this person. Why wouldn't we do that for ourselves, right?
Yes, right. And here's another question I have for you. I wanted to ask you this really, because you're talking about being an artist, and you are a fantastic artist, a musical artist, but how about just people, aren't we all sort of artists in our own life? Do you have any thoughts on that? Because I know you're also very spiritual and that you're connected with, if I'm correct, Buddhism in a way, right? Is that correct?
No, absolutely. No, you are. I'm very fortunate. I've met some great teachers, spiritual teachers, music teachers. But yeah, there's a Tibetan Buddhist practice that's been very helpful to me. So yeah, these teachers have been they've been lifesavers, absolutely. But as far as, you're right, we're all creative beings. The very act of just being alive is a creative act, obviously. And the book I'm referring to again, The Artist's Way, it was really a book. It was designed as a self-help book, for artists. And I've been playing piano my whole life, and I've been, practicing for hours at a time. So, I have sort of that kind of muscle built. But you're right. For somebody that I want to sort of rekindle my creative spark, that book was really geared for that person as well. And you're right. So many of us, we had, we were kids and we took music lessons, and we might have taken a nice painting class, or we had something that kind of gave us joy, that little, that kid within got to finger paint, whatever that means, and go out and buy some finger paints or something and just splash around. And, people have a hard time doing that in their adult lives. And they do. We have responsibilities, and we have bills to pay, and you've got mouths to feed. But what about us individually?
Join Sandra M. for her live performance of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, a toast to love and happiness in life, an uninhibited musical adventure guaranteed to awaken your happiness vibe. Celebrate with upbeat rhythms, love songs, and fun stories, some told by you in the audience. Sandra's musical guest and accompanist, Todd Lowry, sings his hopeful and happy originals. To book Sandra M. and the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, email sandra@sandramcknight.com. Celebrate happiness with Sandra M.
I think again it's that discipline of go to a we've got that great store here on Rios Road, the Artisan Store. Go buy some crayons and some paper and some construction paper and just make a mess. Really. I mean, I think that's important. Seriously, and just, have. So that is part of it. But also, I mean, the very act. This is what I really loved about when I read The Artist's Way. I'm sort of really promoting this book right now, but the act of just the act of being alive is a creative act. And I mean, picking out what you're going to wear is really fun. I mean, like when I dress for a gig, I was like, oh, cool. I want to really think about, And so, just, we all get up and go to work. Most people, have jobs, that we have to go somewhere out. I mean, with COVID, that people are more remote, so maybe they don't have to actually leave their homes as much. But just, choosing what we're going to wear is a really fun act of creativity. It really is. The way that we dress ourselves up. There's so many, the way we decorate our home. I mean, what kind of space do you want to live in? So, I mean, there's so many ways to express our creativity, even if we're not a professional performing artist or musician or dancer, singer, even if we're not a professional actor, whatever, you don't have to be like Bach, Beethoven, Stravinsky, or Sondheim to be part of this creative wheel. We're all on the same, we put these artists up on a pedestal. Well, that's only for those selected few people. Not true. We have to knock that concept down. We're all creative people. We're all, these wonderfully just, imaginative, fun acts of creation, and, mix it up and have fun. And that's all Sondheim does or did, God bless him. I got some words I want to put down on a piece of paper, and I think I'll set a little melody line to them, and that's it. It's not a big deal. And same with, I think I'm going to kind of dress up maybe my home a certain way. These are all just acts of expression. That's it. And just express yourself. And so I do think that being creative, you don't have to necessarily write Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, or you don't have to write Stravinsky Rite of Spring. We think that those are the extreme heights of creativity. And just make a nice meal for somebody. Cooking is such a great way to be creative. And I mean, I think cooking is a huge outlet for a lot of people. I think people love to cook because they get a really quick, instant sort of result from cooking. You get that result, within like an hour or two, putting stuff behind a meal. So there's many ways that being creative can look, and it's not about writing, like I said, the unfinished symphony or the opera, the Great American Opera. And we have to let go of that concept, because then we're comparing ourselves to 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 Shakespeare and to Bach, and it's unfair. These were just dudes that just kind of like had an impulse to set something down on a piece of paper. That's it. And we all have that impulse. We need to all get in touch with that. Where does that impulse to want to create? And it can look so many different ways. So get out there and, throw some paint against the wall, or rearrange your furniture, or I don't know, take all the leftovers in your kitchen in the fridge and make something up with it. I mean, it can look a million different ways.
Yeah.
Don't you agree?
I do, and here's another thing: the impulse to create. So what we've got already is, show up for yourself 5 minutes a day, right? So important.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead and take yourself out on a date and have compassion for yourself. And then you just also mentioned, go with your impulse to create. Don't let it be stifled through comparing yourself to other people all the time. These are things, wonderful ideas. Next thing I want to ask, because I know I've talked to you, I've listened to you perform for many, many years beautifully, and you always talk about, and I'd like you to do something that talk to us about it right now, how important the moment is. You always talk about, let's create a moment.
Indeed.
What does that really mean? Can you share your thoughts on that, creating the moment?
Well, sure. I mean, all there really is the moment. This is just one big, vast moment. Right. I mean, there really isn't. Time is a construct. I mean, obviously. Anyhow, I'm not. I'm not an astrologer. The way that the planets move, but anyhow, we really have sort of constructed or, dissected, or anyhow, we've cut up time. We really have this idea, but it really is just one big, vast moment. But I'm, the act of the impulse. The impulse is to be alive in the moment. That's really what this impulse is. That when we want to sing a song, if I want to play the piano, if when these men and women who decided to sort of commit something to the printed page, whether it be their literature or their famous their symphony or their music. But I like to always think back. Of a wonderful sort of exercise that I learned from acting classes. I got to work very closely with Betty Buckley in when I was living in New York, and she taught a wonderful acting class, and so much of it was about just teaching, like just following our breathing, following our breath, and just really like that's enough. Just the act of being is enough. And again, this is we're all connected. We're connecting with ourselves in the present moment. And then from the breath, now again, that impulse that we talk about, there's that impulse to speak. And there's an impulse after, from the beingness of just being with ourselves, in our bodies, in our breath. And now I'm moved to speak. I'm moved to actually create sound, and I'm moved to communicate with words. And singing is just that speech that's just elevated. And now I'm elevating that speech to a particular pitch. And that's all that singing really is. So, and we're all talking about is that impulse to meet the moment. And I think that's what we all want. We all want to just sort of, we want to just meet this moment as well as we can and as presently as we can. And so I think that that's really what's happening. So, again, I was using singing as sort of the metaphor. You can relate it to, playing the piano, just bringing my hand to the keyboard in this very effortless way. And ultimately, I do think it's about, we want to make our lives as meaningful as we can. And so, and I think if you're the cook at a restaurant, if you're, you're the guy that's picking up, thank goodness we've got a person that picks up our trash on Mondays, okay? If you're the guy that's like collects that for others, whatever, we're all in service of each other, but we're all in service of the moment.
Join Sandra M. for her live performance of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, a toast to love and happiness in life, an uninhibited musical adventure guaranteed to awaken your happiness vibe. Celebrate with upbeat rhythms, love songs, and fun stories, some told by you in the audience. Sandra's musical guest and accompanist, Todd Lowry, sings his hopeful and happy originals. To book Sandra M. and the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, email sandra@sandramcknight.com. Celebrate happiness with Sandra M.
And I think that's really what humanity is really about. You know, we're all serving this moment, and we're serving each other. And I mean, if you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you know, we're trying to just meet that moment, whatever it looks like, with as much integrity. If you're the guy flipping burgers, if you're the guy playing the piano, if, you know, I need an accountant to do my taxes, whatever. It's like, you know, meet the moment, be kind to each other, have integrity with what you're doing, and but just to really like be aware of that impulse about I'm here to help others. I really am, and to bring it all back. I have, you know, the Dalai Lama's, you know, words have been incredibly valuable to me, and I think when I once heard somebody once asked him, what is the meaning of life, and he said, to help others, and that's it.
Yeah.
So,
that's it.
you know, that's it. It's really simple. And when you're that succinct and you're that, like, focused, like, okay, that's it. So I want to meet this moment with my service, whatever that may look like. Again, you know, if you're the musician that's playing in the club, if you're the person that's coaching others to be, you know, better public speakers, if you're the person I'm buying my gas from, hey, you know, we all need each other. So it's just that awareness, always keeping that awareness within us.
So I want to say something, if you don't, just because we have a couple of minutes left, but I wanted to get to the idea, the moment you said something I thought was really brilliant, is that in the moment is when we are alive, really alive. And so we need to actually stay with that as much as possible, as opposed to going into our head and having all kinds of judgments and criticisms of whatever you know, how people do, or sticking to the the work of the work of just getting ahead in life and all that sort of thing, and never taking time for ourselves. So I'm sort of summarizing these wonderful ideas and concepts that you've thrown out there. And as we come to the end of our conversation, I know that you are have a spiritual practice. And for those, I think the world today could use a lot more spiritual practice. I'm not talking religion, I'm not talking organized, but just a sense of, could you just talk to that for a moment, coming out of what your thoughts are on spiritual practice?
Absolutely, because what you just said, you just hit the nail on the head as well, because I was talking to a friend of mine who actually, in their work environment, they said, oh, this person, you know, I'm in this, you know, work, you know, corporate work environment, and they want to bring in this person to help us, you know, teach us like mindfulness, and I don't want any of that woo-woo stuff. And I said, you know, it's a tool, and I said meditation is a tool, and I said you're not joining a cult, you're just following your breath. That's it, and just to have awareness. So I do think, again, that 5 minutes that we talked about earlier today, like, you know, if it's just 5 minutes of following your breath, but a good breathing sort of in and out, following your breath, that's just a good mindfulness, you know, exercise. I do meditate, and I think of meditation as a tool. I'm not joining any cult. It's not a religion. I'm not fanatical about anything. And, you know, it's, again, and somebody, I think Joseph Campbell once said, somebody asked him, well, how would you define Buddhism? And he said, Buddhism is the art of living. And I don't identify with being any one religion. I was born Jewish. I happen to be Buddhist practices. But I tend to think of myself as, I really, you know, to me, again, that art of living, you know, doing trying to be as creative as I can with my life, whatever it may look like. So, but yes, I think meditation is a great tool. It helps us to discern, you know, there's lots of thoughts, lots of noise coming at us. So we get a chance to, you know, maybe we can filter out what's important and what isn't, what we want to keep, what we want to let go of. So I think it's just a good, nice breathing exercise or some kind of a meditation practice is just, I think could really be very helpful. And I encourage people just to adopt something. It doesn't have to be, you're not joining a religion, you're not joining a cult. Believe me, and we've all, everybody feels like, oh, I'm reading a book by, who knows, and again, I'm not moving to Tibet to join a monastery, but I happen to like the practices. I like the disciplines and the practices of the Dalai Lama. So just, to take something that's really helpful and just, grab hold of it, and you'd be surprised. It could really be a very helpful tool to your life. So meditation is a tool, and I think it's a very helpful tool. And I encourage people to just look within for a few minutes.
Right, go within.
And go within, and I think just having that awareness can shine a lot of perspective on your life that perhaps you wouldn't have had if you hadn't gone within for those few minutes. So that's my encouragement. I just, I'm never going to tell anybody what they should and shouldn't do, but I would encourage that very strongly.
Thank you so much, David. This has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And I'd just like to say, I always like to give my guests the last word, as we say. So is there something you'd like to leave us with before we sign off?
Well, I know that this may not be aired until a little bit later in the year, but anyhow, but Happy New Year, because we're having this conversation kind of in early January. But just have a great New Year. Have fun. I want people to have fun. So, go out and have some fun. Okay, that's my last word. Have a fun year. Okay.
Thank you, David.
All right. Okay, Sandy. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Weekly Key to Happiness 14. Ditch your phone. Unplug all the electronics for at least 1 hour per week, or a shorter amount of time 3 times a week. You might be surprised at the difference it makes. Let your mind wander free for a change. Read, meditate, take a walk, and pay attention to the surroundings. Be sociable or be alone. Just be. Newsflash, please sign up for your copy of our Keys to Happiness at sandramcknight.com. Thank you for tuning in to Season 2 of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. And if you've enjoyed the conversation, please help spread the word by sharing with your friends and family. Before we go, I'd like to thank today's guest, David Geist, for sharing his happiness story. And to share your happiness story on the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast, send an email to sandra@sandramcknight.com.
Turn your smile on, you can't go wrong. You'll find that love is all around. Follow your bliss, no one is against you.